Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Fan Appreciation Month here on Reaction and Review. Tonight, guys, I'm taking a look at a horror anthology film from 2012. That movie is The ABCs of Death. Now, I'm going to tell you guys right now, the premise for this almost sounds okay. In fact, allow me to let the film itself explain, because, because I always have the movie queued up. I've got it paused on the opening screen, and it says the following. The following feature film was created by 26 directors from around the world. Each director was given a letter of the alphabet and asked to choose a word. They then created a short film of death that related to their chosen word. They had complete artistic freedom regarding the content of their segments. Now, with all of that in mind, and all that sounds really cool, but I was doing some factoring, and if the runtime on the back of this thing is in any way accurate, that means that these 26 directors, provided that this movie has no opening or closing credits, each director has 5 minutes to tell us a story. 5 minutes. That's it. And to put this into perspective, guys, Looney Tunes shorts on average ran 7. So I am not really expecting depth here, and I would be absolutely stunned if even half of these things actually have some kind of a coherent story to tell within 5 minutes. But the only way for me to find out if any of this is even half good is if I shut up and I push play, and I'm going to do that right now. So, without further ado, it's time to kick back, relax, and check out the ABCs of Death. Wow, so we start off with an absolutely god-awful story, but holy shit, that had an awesome payoff at the very end. I honestly am able to at least say that. The payoff on the first story was actually at least decent. Kind of a pity that the story itself was just a bit of old shit, huh? Wow, we actually got a good one, guys. Yeah, that last story was actually pretty good. Unfortunately, that means that only 1 out of the first 4 have been even halfway decent. And that is not a good batting average, guys. You know what I mean? So we just had a story that was quite literally just a 4-minute fart, joke. Yeah, Japan really knows how to keep things classy, guys. You know, guys, out of all the things I was expecting to see in this movie, furry, bullshit was not one of those things, but yet that is exactly what I'm treated to here, and I kinda wish that I was dead. Wow, we actually have a comedy segment in this one that's actually funny. Well, not funny haha, but at least creative. I'm actually kind of liking this one in its own messed up sort of way. Okay, that one was really good. That one is probably the best segment they've had this entire film. It's also only the 3rd decent segment I have run into. That is kind of sad considering how far into this movie we are, but that segment was fucking awesome. Alright, guys, well, this story is good and, weird and kind of interesting. I just sort of wish that there was more of a plot to it. I kind of wish we got some kind of explanation as to why in the hell surgeons were taking film out of, this guy's skin. And how exactly that leads to everything else that's happened over the last couple of minutes. Nothing here is making a lick of sense to me. Wow. I never thought I'd live to see a killer, toilet in a movie. But that killer toilet's fucking awesome. This is really an interesting segment. I'm actually kind of liking it. Okay, that was probably the best way you could have done anything with fucking W. That was really cool. I am gonna have to grant them that. Wow, I get to watch an old man suck friggin' butt sweat off of bleachers. I wish I was making that up. I really fucking do, but no, that's exactly what I'm seeing. And it's fucking disgusting. Well, guys, that was the ABCs of death, and that was interesting. I'm gonna shut that off. Believe it or not, guys, the movie has over 10 minutes of closing credits. I'd like to say that right now. So even though at the very start I said that if we had no opening or closing credits, each filmmaker would be only allowed five minutes based on the runtime on the back of this thing. The very fact that we have over 10 minutes of closing credits, we had about 3 minutes of opening credits, they were left with far less than 5 minutes. And I guess I should really explain why that is such a huge issue. Let's talk about the writing. Well, see, guys, when you have this many directors working on this many different short films for your big overall anthology film, you are asking a lot of them to work miracles because you're asking them to make a somewhat coherent story that takes place in just a couple of minutes time. And out of the 26 segments which were in this film, only 6 of them were actually able to, at least to me, come off as in any way even halfway good. And those 6, for those of you who are curious, were D, K, N, Q, T, and W. Every other segment was crap. A lot of it was crap because they didn't have time to actually flesh out these stories. All right, certain ones are trying to give an entire world's worth of mythos and continuity. That one there, I believe, was V, that was trying to feed us an entire fucking like backstory. And it all just comes out as this huge jumbled mess. And if anything, V would probably have been a lot better if it were allowed to be stretched out to about 20 minutes. And at the same time, we then have ones such as M, which is less than 2 minutes long. And it's a very lazy two minutes long. I found out because, well, I actually have the list of directors here. I wanted to see what all these people had worked on. Found out that M was directed by the same pin-headed fuckwit who did the second story in VHS. And as many of you know, I despised the second story in fucking VHS. It was absolutely overlong and shit. And here he basically tried to overcompensate by making an entry which is so goddamn short it is almost non-existent. It has literally zero plot. And really almost any other human being could probably have made it better. I mean, it was absolutely inexcusable. Now, I would like to say, though, that probably if all of these directors were given far more time to work on these stories, then I could almost guarantee that most of these would probably have turned out great. But you see, what I think that they should have done for this, instead of making it a single two-hour long movie, what they should have done is they should have made a 26 episode miniseries, maybe, I don't know, like run it on HBO, since a whole lot of these filmmakers insisted on, incredibly disgusting things that you'd never see on regular TV or even on cable. And give each of them a single episode, give them a half an hour, or give them like 15 minutes. You can run 2 of them per, episode, and everything would have been better. Everybody would have had a chance to flesh everything out. Instead, we wind up with 6 tales in here that are actually good, and 20 of them which falter either because of absolutely lazy fucking writing, or because they weren't given enough time to properly flesh out their story and make it proper, or make it properly interesting and actually make it engaging for the viewer. So yeah, guys, writing here, I can totally blame it entirely on whoever the hell came up with the very concept of this. Now, I would like to say that that you honestly could sell this thing to almost anybody, and fans of my series could probably be totally sold on this if you told them exactly what a lot of people were telling me when they were telling me I should cover this. You basically just have to say, oh well, it has segments which are from the same people who worked on Tokyo Gore Police, Battlefield Baseball, a Serbian film, Hobo with a Shotgun, and quite a few other films I've covered in this series. But guess what, guys? You can have every single one of those fantastic people working on a film, but it still does not guarantee that it is going to be great, and this thing here is living proof of that. In fact, I believe that every single one of those films I mentioned, none of those directors turned in decent showings based on what I have listed out here as good segments. Most of them would probably have been a lot better off with much longer segments, which again would have probably been better suited for a television miniseries as opposed to a single standalone movie. Ultimately, guys, this thing totally falters on writing because very few of these people were given a chance to properly flesh out any kind of story that was halfway decent. I do have to give honorable mention, though, to segments Q and W, which are two of them I thought were great, because the whole thing with those were just the filmmakers making little short films mocking the fact that they don't know what the fuck to do with Q and W, and they worked really well. They were incredibly funny. In fact, most of the good segments relied heavily on dark humor instead of going for solid horror, and it benefited because of it. Because you don't need a ton of character. I mean, you don't need a ton of character depth, and you don't need a ton of story in order to tell a good dark humor story. But you do need a lot of character depth if you want us to care about any character who is in a solid horror or thriller story, which certainly why stories such as V and W completely fail. Not fucking WX, it was V and X. Completely fail because you are trying to give us a ton of extra fucking, character depth, but you don't have the time to properly flesh it out. And guys, I totally understand I should be talking about everything else, but just the very premise of this thing kneecapped damn near every single fucking director and kept them from giving us something that might have been good, and that is absolutely disgusting. So I could probably be here for a week just talking about the fucking writing, and it seriously isn't even the writing. Again, it's just it's just the limitations that were put on the writers. So I'm going to try to move away from that. I want to talk about acting. The acting in this is pretty good. Almost every segment has acting which is halfway decent, which actually once more just kind of sort of punctuates the fact that these stories would have all been most of the stories would have been infinitely better if they were fleshed out, with only 6 of them actually properly done in a fucking way to be presentable. That's absolutely sad. So yeah, guys, the acting here is not bad. I mean, the acting here is great. It's just, again, I'm going to stop banging on about the fucking writing, I promise. Special effects in a lot of these segments are really good. However, once more, that is because we have films which are from the people who worked on Tokyo Gore Police and a Serbian film and Battlefield Baseball and Hobo with a Shotgun, and every one of those films, amongst others which are featured in here. I mean amongst other works which these various directors have worked on, have shown us that they know how to do these effects, and they know how to do them very, very well. So if nothing else, this honestly gives a ton of them a chance to totally shine and show us exactly what they can do, even when hobbled by horrific writing limitations. I know I said I would stop, but it still bothers me. Music, there is very, very little music in here that is big. There is one song which is like the primary focus of Why, and Why is from the guy who did Hobo with a Shotgun. And the song itself is really catchy, but the story kind of sucks, and it's one of 2 stories which has direct pedophilic implications, which to me is just kind of disgusting. We have 3 stories that are focused entirely on toilets. Again, I'm not going to go into writing anymore on that. Just there were a couple of very bizarre things that a lot of these people had a huge focus on. Camera work for a lot of these is is really solid. A couple of them are shot in first person, and at least one of those uses it incredibly well. I just kind of wish that the story itself were better. But yeah, guys, like camera work here is pretty good. The sound mix in this thing is rather solid. Ultimately, guys, my biggest gripe has to be that fucking writing, and it's because of that I cannot recommend this. Because if they would have given all of these directors actual time to flesh out these stories, this thing might actually have been watchable. However, no matter how much time you would have given, stories such as M would have still completely faltered and completely failed and would still have sucked balls. But the very fact that only 6 of these segments were actually able to be done properly, especially again with those fucking writing limitations, shows that this very premise was flawed from the very beginning. And I cannot recommend this to anybody. If anybody has these segments like pieced out on YouTube, go right ahead and look up the 6 I mentioned. Those really are the only 6 that are worth your time. And as for the rest of these filmmakers, if I honestly were you, I would take your segment and I'd try to flesh it out into something a little bit longer. Flesh it out to maybe like a 25-minute short and throw it out there in theaters, and you can show exactly what your story was supposed to be, because this thing is a fucking travesty. Now, because this is Fan Appreciation Month, the ABCs of Death came off the Amazon wish list. The guy who sent it in is a first-timer to the series, and his name is Jack. And his YouTube channel is youtube.com/user/Jack. It's JackDeman171. I am going to put a link to his channel in this video's description, guys. By all means, swing over there, check it out. Jack, thanks, dude. I was really curious about, this movie. I seriously was. No matter how apprehensive I was going into it, in just purely on the premise, I still wanted it to at least be halfway decent. Instead, we got barely anything here, which at least to me was good. I totally know that other people are going to find a lot of these segments to be great. I found most of them to be just horribly lacking, and that's why I cannot recommend this for any reason. This thing is probably one of the most disappointing movies I've seen in a long time, especially considering the mountain of talent that went in working on this thing. For this thing to turn out this poor is absolutely depressing. Now, guys, I'm going to go watch a good, and I mean a good, and I'm going to watch a good anthology film. I'm kind of weighing my options between Heavy Metal and Creepshow. I'm going to pick out one of those because, damn it, I need to see something decent after watching something this terrible. So yes, guys, with that, we come to the close of another reaction and review. Until next time, ladies and gentlemen, take care, and I will see you all in the near future. Peace.